Welcome to Hard Reboot Network's 5 Facts You Probably Already Knew. The only fact show that doesn't rely on stretching out a fact to make that minuscule AdSense that comes from 10-minute videos, sacrificing relevancy in the YouTube algorithm for your bite-sized factoids. I'm your host, Chris, and this week, Marvel Comics. In 1984, Warner Brothers almost shut down the DC publishing. Who did they turn to offer the characters to? None other than Marvel Comics. That's right, there was a time in comics history in which Marvel could have been publishing the likes of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and The Flash, alongside Spidey and Iron Man. They declined to buy the license due to a belief that it was the characters that weren't selling well, and not necessarily a fault of the management. Fast forward to 2017, and I'd say they probably regret that decision, at least in comic sales. DC isn't the only one who had been on the verge of bankruptcy. Marvel themselves were close to letting go of all the properties and calling it quits. The 90s were a rough time for Marvel, and due to convoluted stories, an overabundance of X-Men, and comics losing ground to video games, Marvel had been discussing bankruptcy. To save themselves, they ended up licensing characters to different studios for movies, which is why we have so many rights issues today. And the reason you'll probably never see that Spidey x Deadpool scene from all the fanfiction ever materialized on screen. Marvel Comics weren't always known as Marvel. There was a time where they were still timely publications. This is the publication that first introduced characters like Captain America, the Human Torch, and Namor. Some pretty big staples in Marvel today, albeit we have a different Torch now. But as the times changed, so did the name. First to Atlas Comics, then we hit the nuclear age of the 1960s to Marvel Comics. At least they're more decisive than any band I've ever been in. Have you ever wondered who started the feud between DC and Marvel? It was none other than Stan the Man Lee. He used to take shots at DC in his bullpen bulletins, referring to them as Brand Ech and other names in the same vein. DC would try to quell the rivalry, only to be hit with another bullpen bulletin. Over the years, the DC and Marvel rivalry has softened to the point to where Lee wrote his own take on some DC characters. Marvel was responsible for much of the story of Transformers in the 80s, but one of the most interesting parts of this is that Optimus Prime got his name from Denny O'Neil, who was a writer for Marvel at the time. O'Neil had also developed much of the characters' personalities. That's all for this episode of 5 Facts You Probably Already Knew. My name's Chris with the Hard Reboot Network. Please like, subscribe, and do the numerous other things YouTube tells us to tell you to do. Thanks for watching.